I said, I don't accept that. Not at 55 years old. I'm not going to let my mother die from hypertension. I said, in a city that is 65% African American, you're telling me you can't find treatment for hypertension? It doesn't make sense. So I told him, try harder, try something different.
Welcome to Mama Mabel's Caregivers Podcast, a space created to honor the strength, sacrifice, and humanity of caregivers everywhere. Today's episode is titled Caregiving as a Labor of Love, Finding Purpose Without Losing Yourself. It's a conversation for anyone who has poured themselves into caring for others while quietly wondering where they went along the way. We're joined by Charlayne Van Skinner, a certified life coach and the founder of Passion Flower Coaching LLC. With a background in law and public service, Charlene brings both structure and compassion to the caregiving experience. She understands the emotional weight caregivers carry and the identity shifts that often come with it. Drawing from her own caregiving journey and her powerful workshop, Labor of Love, a Caregiver's Workshop, Charlene helps caregivers move beyond fear, rebuild confidence, and reconnect with purpose without sacrificing themselves in the process. If you're navigating caregiving, burnout, or searching for balance between responsibility and self worth, this episode will meet you right where you are. Let's get into it. Hello, Charlene. How are you?
Hello, I am doing well, thank you. So
Awesome.
excited to be here with you.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on as a guest to be on Mama Mabel's Caregivers podcast. I sincerely appreciate it. I know that the podcast family is going to sincerely appreciate it. Podcast family, I have a dynamic episode. You know how I do. I always say that, but it's because it's the truth. I have another dynamic episode for you on today. And this is a very special conversation. I actually know Miss Charlayne Van, who goes by Char. She's one of the ladies that I golf with. So she's great at golf as well. She does a great job with that.
Not as good as you, but
Well, you know what? It wasn't until I received the left handed golf clubs that really helped me with my game. But, podcast family, I'm excited to have her on today. She is a certified life coach. And with that said, let's just get straight into it. Miss Charlene Van, please tell me about yourself.
great. Again, I'm honored to be here with you today. And a little bit about me, I relocated to Myrtle Beach in March of 2023. So I'm coming up on my third anniversary of living down here. And that was from Maryland. And everyone just really embraced me when I came here. And I found the strength and courage to launch a lifelong dream of mine, which was to become a life coach, a certified life coach. And that was because throughout my life, I've always been that friend that everyone came to for advice. So, plus, after being a caregiver for about 18 years for my mom, that also sparked a passion in me to want to help others because caregivers do so much and we get so little. So I wanted to find a way to let the people in my community know that their voice matters and that there's someone there that cares and can help guide you if you need it. So my caregiver journey started when I was about 32. So, like you, Talisa, I was a young caregiver.
Oh, wow. So you started when you were 32. So tell me, Shar, where were you in life during that time when you were 32? And what took place for you to take on the role of being a caregiver for your mother?
Sure. I was fresh out of law school and my mom was already living with me. We were like roommates. And before I finished law school, I had all these big dreams because it's pretty grueling, the process. It's pretty grueling, it's pretty unforgiving, and it's long. So I didn't have a life. My whole life was surrounded by school, studying, and work. I worked full time and went to school at night. So I had these big dreams that I was going to travel the world and find my dream job and get married and all these big, lofty dreams I had. And I just couldn't wait. And then about 2 months after graduation, I had taken my mom out to dinner with some family and friends for her birthday. Took her to downtown DC to this lovely waterfront restaurant. And she was acting a little different that morning. She didn't seem like herself. She didn't seem well. She had just begun treatment for diabetes, type 2 diabetes. And so we get to I said, "Are you sure you want to go? You don't seem like you're feeling well." But she insisted she wanted to go. So I took her, and she excused herself in the middle of dinner to go to the restroom. And she had been in there for a really long time. And one of my cousins said, "Your mom's been gone for a while. Maybe you should go check on her." And I go and I check on her. And long story short, she collapsed in my arms. I had no idea what was going on, but I told her to stay there. And I ran and I told my husband to call 911 because she had just collapsed. So he did, and they came, and we found out that she had a very serious infection that was attacking her organs one by one. And she was becoming septic and facing death at that time. Her blood sugar was 900. And the doctors were so shocked that she was still like conscious with a 900 blood sugar. So they started her on an insulin drip, and her health just began to decline from there. Instead of starting my own practice, I got a job working for the federal government, something stable, something that had generous leave policies and flexibility and guaranteed income and all those things I knew I was going to need. So that's what started my journey and fueled my passion. And it entailed a lot. And one of the major things it entailed was advocacy. And whenever I had to take her to the hospital, I had to be her advocate because as an African American woman in the healthcare system, you're not treated like everyone else. A lot of the providers feel like, oh, African Americans, they lead these unhealthy lives. They don't eat right, they drink, they smoke. So why should we expend our resources on them? It's like a throwaway kind of thing. And I had to be the one to stand up and say, no, try harder, try something different. At one point, she was in the ICU after having her third stroke, I think it was, because she also had hypertension. And the doctor said to me, oh, she has malignant hypertension and she's just going to keep having strokes until one day she's going to die. And we've tried everything. There's nothing else we can do for her. This was at a hospital in Baltimore, Maryland. And I said, I don't accept that. Not at 55 years old. I'm not going to let my mother die from hypertension. I said, in a city that is 65% African American, you're telling me you can't find treatment for hypertension? It doesn't make sense. So I told him, try harder, try something different, figure it out. This woman was a Hopkins trained neurologist. I said, figure it out.
Exactly. And I mean, I resonate with that. And I'm sure many of the podcast family that's tuning in right now can also resonate with that. As you stated, having to be an advocate for your loved one. I experienced that with my mother. I was with her at some doctor's appointments, and I was going back and forth with the physician assistant
Hmm.
that was there because they weren't trying to prescribe her the medication that she needed.
Hmm.
And I really had to get with them.
Yeah.
In addition to that, even prior, my mother kept getting blood clots in her lungs.
Mm.
This was something that was happening, consistently happened during a 10-year period from 2007 to 2017. And there were times where I flew up north because my mother was in Metro Detroit, flew up north and was there in the hospitals, talking with the doctors, really advocating. And what I found that the doctors gave me more time and really took me seriously with the information that I had. I would take what they told me that was going on and I would research it. But that didn't always work because, like you said, you really have to tell them, like, hey, no, we're not giving up. Try something different. I had to have that type of a conversation with the PA
Mm.
at a doctor's appointment with my mother. So it was great that you were able to really advocate for your mother, speak up for her. This happened, you stepped into the caregiving role at the age of 30, and that's when life, right after you graduated, changed.
Right.
Tell me, I believe you shared with me that you are the only child.
I am an only child. Yeah.
Okay. So you're the only child, and you're taking on all of this basically by yourself.
Yeah.
How was that experience for you from that standpoint?
Everything was on me. And I didn't completely mind that because, like you, I'm a fixer. And I thought I could just fix anything. People always came to me for advice. I would solve their problems, always give them resources, all kinds of stuff. And so I didn't mind being her advocate because I didn't think anybody could do it better than me. I didn't think anyone could take care of her better than me. So, although it was exhausting and unforgiving, I didn't mind doing it on my own, to be perfectly honest. I thought that's how it should be.
I agree, and I resonate with that as well because that was your mother, because you had a relationship with her, because you knew her and you were connected to her. You felt that would be better for you to handle it versus the person that didn't know her as you did.
And I was fortunate enough that I work for a healthcare agency and I work around a lot of clinicians. So they were helping me a lot with what questions to ask, what terminology to use. And it was to the point where they thought I was like a nurse. But it's good to speak their language because that's when they'll take you seriously.
Absolutely. And that is some knowledge and wisdom there because that was also my experience, podcast family. When you are taking care of a loved one and you are their caregiver, just what we both found to have been helpful is to take the diagnosis and take some time to research it
Hmm.
and write out some questions that you have.
Right. Yeah.
Because, yeah, what that does is it helps to elevate the conversation. And I found that the professionals, the doctors, etc., nurses, they'll give you more time because it's
Absolutely.
like you're speaking their language.
I always came with a notebook and a pen with questions written out. So, yeah, that's definitely true.
Okay. So at the beginning of your caregiving journey, was it after graduating? You had graduated from law school. Now your mom has this disease that's attacking her body. Did you have to put everything on hold? Did she need 24/7 care? Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Initially, no. Initially, she could still function to the surprise of everyone. She could still feed herself. She could still dress herself. She could give herself insulin. She could speak. Yeah. So it was pretty it wasn't as difficult in the beginning, but then she started to decline. And I had just bought my first house, and that's when she started having back to back strokes to the point where she could no longer speak at all. She could still dress herself, she could still bathe and dress herself, but a lot of other activities of daily living, like cooking and that sort of thing, she couldn't do anymore. And her mobility was affected as well. So, fortunately, I worked not far from my house. It was probably like 10, 15 minutes. So I would come home on my lunch break, check her blood sugar, give her insulin if she needed it, make sure she had lunch and all that good stuff. And then when I got home, I would take on my second job. I used to call it my second job, where I would be caring for her, preparing meals, helping her bathe and get ready for bed and that sort of thing. And
Okay.
then I, in 2008, I met my would be husband, and we got married and we moved in with him. And that's when her health really started declining. And I was bringing nurses in, just like you, bringing in the CNAs and all that stuff. And that was hard because people can be very unreliable. So I'd have people can't. I'm going away for the weekend. I'd have people cancel on me on Friday afternoon, and I'd have to scramble to find someone. So yeah, it became really difficult. She couldn't walk. She couldn't bathe herself. She couldn't feed herself. She couldn't dress. Like, it just really declined. And my husband and I, we both worked. So we were out of the house for 10 to 12 hours a day. So she definitely needed someone in the home with her.
And you were a newlywed at
Mhm.
that, right?
Yeah,
Taking care of your mother and having to wear, as caregivers, we have to wear many hats. You were a
absolutely.
professional, you had just gotten married,
Mhm.
even to be able to have a personal life, to meet someone to get married while taking care of your mother. I know that was a process in itself as well.
Oh, yes.
All right. So you said that you took care of her for 18 years.
Oh, I forgot to mention my husband was diagnosed with cancer in 2014.
Oh,
And so I was taking care of both of them. And that's when things really got difficult because I was just worn out. I was stretched way too thin, way, way too thin. Fortunately, I had a sister in law who lived close by and she's a nurse. So she would come in and help out from time to time. And my mom had a CNA who would come every day, but she wouldn't be there on the weekends. So everything fell on me on the weekends.
okay. So your mother's health began to decline, which required more responsibility on your part for her. And
Mhm.
then your husband was facing cancer as your mother's health was declining. And so you found yourself taking care of both, but then you said you were able to receive some help from family. So
Yeah.
that was great. And over the 18 years, her health, did it ever get better or did it continue to decline until the end?
Yeah. There were times when she got better, like her blood pressure and blood sugars were under control. But for the most part, it was just a steady decline. And my mom, she was a really special person. She was the person who lit up the room when she walked in. She was always the life of the party, had everyone laughing and all that stuff. And she was my hero. Like, she was someone I really looked up to because she was just a go-getter and a fiercely independent woman, raised me by herself and taught me so many important values. So it was like watching your hero just decline. And I often liken it to watching someone drown and you don't have a life preserver to send to throw out to them. You just have to stand there and watch it happen.
Yeah. And
And
that's very hard. Yeah.
it makes you feel powerless. It really played on my self worth.
So as it pertained to your mother, you were taking care of her. Let's talk about towards the end. Where were you in life? How were you able to process things, handle that transition? Let's talk about that area.
Yeah, sure. It got to a point in 2017 where she had just declined to the point where she needed 24-hour care. And I remember that fall in November, I broke my foot in 3 places. And I was still trying to take care of her, hobbling around on a boot, going up and down the stairs because we had remodeled our lower level to be like an in law suite for her. So I'd be going up and down the stairs, check on her, bring her food. And one day I was walking up the stairs, hobbling, and I said, you know what? I said, I'm a God fearing person, a deeply spiritual person. And I said, God, I think you're up to something. I think you're setting me up for something because I know you love me and I know you would never put me through something like this without a purpose. So that's what I said to myself. And it got to a point where she was falling and hurting herself. And she had an episode, she was going to a day program. She had an episode there where she passed out. Her blood sugar got too low and she passed out. And they sent her to the emergency room. And all of my friends and family were like, Shar, you just can't do it anymore. You just can't. So I did end up finding a nursing home very close by for her. She was going to have to go there anyway for rehab, but I decided that was the safest place for her at the time. So she ended up spending the last 3 years of her life there. And of course, there was a lot of guilt, although I went to see her every single day. But still, there was a lot of guilt and a lot of advocating again with the nursing home staff and making sure she got the care that she needed. And then she'd gotten COVID. And this is where, after Thanksgiving, and COVID just ran through all the nursing homes and people were dying. It was rough. It was really rough. And they were on lockdown, so we couldn't go and see them. She got to a point where her lung collapsed and it was bad. But she beat it. She came back. She came
Wow.
back. And the nursing home took really good care of her. They gave her the fluids and made sure she was getting enough nutrients and all that good stuff. Because they didn't want to send her to the hospital because at that time, going to the hospital was basically a death sentence. You were not coming out of there. That was a one-way ticket. So they did everything they could to keep her out of the hospital. And she stayed out and she recovered. But little did I know that the COVID had done massive damage to her kidneys. So over time, and they did everything they could. She finally got, they had to implant a feeding tube because she just stopped eating. She wouldn't eat anything. So they put in the feeding tube, and that was the only thing keeping her alive at the time. So it got to a point where her body was no longer absorbing the nutrients that they were trying to put in. So she really, really plummeted at that point, and her kidneys were just in such bad shape. They did, she ended up back in the hospital, and they did 3 surgeries in a week trying to save her kidneys, and nothing worked. And at that point, I knew that the Lord was ready to call her home. It's hard.
Take your time. The space that we're in, I absolutely love because You're allowed to be your authentic self. You're able to bring who you truly are here. So please continue.
Yeah, after the third surgery, and the surgeon told me, he said, if this one doesn't work, there's nothing else we can do. On that day after the surgery, I got a call from the hospital, and the person said that the doctor wants you to come up here. He wants to talk to you. So I'm driving up to the hospital, and I'm telling myself he's probably going to tell you that the surgery was unsuccessful. And I'm going through all these different scenarios in my mind about what I'm going to do, what decisions I'm going to make, how we're going to handle this. And I was literally wearing myself out trying to trying to figure everything out. And I finally got to the last traffic stop before I got to the hospital. And I was sitting there looking at the light, and I finally just said, Father, thy will be done. And I proceeded on to the hospital, where they told me that the surgery wasn't successful. And they said the only thing left for her is dialysis. And I knew that she didn't want to go that route. We had talked about it. And for me, it was about the quality of her life, not the quantity. And dialysis, although it may have kept her alive, her heart was also failing at the time. So dialysis may have kept her alive for a little while, but her quality of life would not have been good. She would have been suffering even more than she already was. So I was her power of attorney and her healthcare proxy. And I told the surgeon, we're going to decline the dialysis and put her on hospice and let her just be comfortable. And so that's what we did. And the night that she passed, I got a call from the nursing home. It was like 11:30 that night. And I never turned my phone off because you just never knew. And they said, it's time. She's really like fighting to breathe at this point. And I had been there earlier in the day, and she seemed like she was okay. But they said, no, we don't know how much longer she has, but she's really struggling to breathe. And so my husband and I raced up there. It was like a 40-minute drive. So on the way there, I'm thinking, okay, what if she's gone by the time we get there? What am I going to do? And then I realized there's nothing I can do. And I said, God, it's up to you. If it's your will for me to see her before she passes, then it's your will. And if I don't make it, then that's your will too. That was part of the plan. And I have to surrender that, and I have to respect that, because I know that God only wants good for me and all of us. It's all working for our good. All things work together for the good of those who love him. My favorite scripture.
Yes, indeed. So what happened? Were you able to see her, or
Yes.
what happened when you went up there?
So my husband, he went into the room first because I wanted him to see if she was still with us. So he went in, and I was like running down the hallway, and he looked at me and he said, she's still here. She's still here. She's breathing. And so I came in, and I held her hand, and we prayed together. We worshiped together. We sang to her. And my husband said to her, he said, Mom, my mom calls me Sherry. That's her nickname for me. He said, Mom, I got Sherry. Don't worry about her. I got her. And she lifted up her head. She was so weak, she couldn't even speak or try to speak or do anything. But she lifted up her head and she gave him this huge smile. And then she was struggling to breathe and do the death rattle and all that stuff. And so I said, Mom, just God is waiting for you with open arms. Just let him take you so you can rest. And she took one last deep breath. And it was clear, it wasn't rattly or anything. And that was her last breath.
Wow.
And let me tell you this one thing that really stayed with me. We were holding each other's arms, and she was squeezing mine so tight. And it felt something was pulling her, literally pulling her away from me. And I felt like I could feel her soul leaving her body. I could feel God just pulling her in like that. And it was the most incredible experience.
Wow.
And I knew that I would be forever changed after that. And I
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. Wow. That's so beautiful. Thank you just so much for sharing that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to make you cry.
No, it's okay. I'm all right. I just really resonate with that. I sincerely resonate with that. My mother and I were very close. And she told me a lot, shared a lot of things with me. And one of the things she shared was I remember when I was one or almost one or one or some change when her father passed away. And he had a form of cancer and he was in the hospital. And my mother shared this with me. She said, parents, there are some parents, because I know all of them are not like this, but there are some parents who have a hard time letting go when it's time because of the love that they have for their child. And when it's like that, what needs to happen is the child needs to let them go,
Yeah.
tell them it's okay to go. And when my grandfather was passing, and he always taught we're very spiritual people on my mother's side of the family, very spiritual. So before he passed, he was always talking about the white horse that would peek his head in the room, who was there to take him to church, he said.
Oh, wow.
No one would see that. And he would just, we're talking now, he would stop and he would look at the door and he would say, no, not yet. Please,
Mm.
just give me a little more time. And my mother was like, who are you talking to? And he said, the white horse, don't you see it? It's here to take me to church. And he told my mother, which my mother shared with me. My mother had a sibling. My mother was one of six. And one of her siblings, my mother said that her father told her, I can't go because your sibling, he said the name of the sibling, will not let me go. Tell
Mm.
her to release me. Tell her to let me go. And so I remembered that when it was my mother's, because
Hmm.
that's a lot to put the body through. I resonate with that because my mother, she had stage 4 breast cancer, but she actually had a heart attack.
Mm.
And that's what led us to the hospital. And same thing, doctor wanted to talk to me. I had never experienced anything like this. They had me sitting in a special room. I didn't know what that was about. He came in, I was optimistic. I'm like, did you find a pulse? And he was just like, no. He said, the pulse keeps fading. He says, what do you want me to do? And I thought about it. Earlier that morning, my mother literally said, she was talking to me and to the CNA because CNA and a nurse was there that day earlier in the day. And she was just like, I thought about it. And she said, if something happens to me, I want to be revived. I want to be here. So I told the doctor without making any more calls, I just said, try one more time. If you're not able to sustain the pulse, let her go. And that was the most selfless thing I have ever done in my
Yeah.
life because, whew, I didn't think about anybody else but her. He told me
Mhm.
that they could put her on a machine and have it breathe for her, but it wouldn't be her. Why put her through even more
Right.
pain? So what ended up happening is just like that, the doctor called me back to the room. So I went into the room and I saw them working on her. She had a tube in her mouth that was full of blood,
Mm.
and I knew her ribs were broken because of the CPR.
Yeah.
There was someone else in there giving her a shot in her neck. The whole thing just looked painful, and her eyes were open, but they weren't blinking. And he says, I have a pulse. He says, but it continues to fade. He says, so I just began to cry. which was the very first time I cried in front of her because she told me in the very beginning when she was diagnosed not to cry and to be strong because she didn't want to be responsible for having to cheer anyone else up when this was happening to her. As I'm crying on her chest, the doctor, he was so compassionate. He had some of the prettiest blue eyes I've ever seen. White man, blue eyes, but his eyes were full of compassion and salt.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me, he looked at me, he said, talk to her. She can hear you. And I'm so grateful for that moment. So I took that time and I began to thank her for just everything that she's done for me.
Mm-hmm.
I told her I loved her, how much I appreciated her. I acknowledged the pain that she was in just to be here with me. Woo. So I told her that I said, Mom, it's okay. I said, you can rest. I said, I want you to rest. It's okay to rest. You've done a wonderful job. I thank you. I love you with all of my heart. And when I said that, it gave that permission because,
Mm-hmm.
again, it was from my childhood, the conversations that we had.
Yep.
They literally counting down. They said, "Our post is at such and such. Our post dropped to such and such. Our post dropped to
Mm-hmm.
this. Boop, she's gone." It was a
Yeah.
blessing. It was an incredible experience just to be able to release her, to
Yeah.
let her know that it was okay. She could rest. So, again, I resonate with that. Thank you so much for
Same
that.
here.
Yeah. Moving forward, you had a couple of things I wanted to go back to. So I know you said you had dreams and about being an attorney and etc. But then you had to take care of your mother. Were you able to realize some of those desires that you had, or did life completely shift due to being a caregiver?
It mostly did shift, but I was able to build a career in healthcare law and policy where I could still use my degree and my training. So that was a blessing. And I still got some travel in here and there, even as a caregiver. So yeah, I did.
A person once said, and this was something that, again, something that resonated with me. They said, there comes a point in time where you look back on the goals and the life that you thought you were going to have and seeing where you're at and the thoughts and ideas and etc lifestyle that you created isn't what you have today. It's important to mourn that so you can let that go. That hit home for me because I'm sure, like everyone else, there are certain things that we thought from the time we were children into our early 20s etc that we thought we would be doing or a place we would be at, whatever the case may be, or children, if you don't have children, whatever the case may be. The person said, mourn that. It's okay to mourn that. And then the person said, dry your eyes, never go back, and live your current life. Both.
Mm,
I loved it. So,
yeah.
caregivers, the caregiving family,
Mhm.
podcast family, if you are in a situation as a caregiver where you've had to put some goals and some dreams on hold, or you have experienced some shifts in your life, and some of the things that you wanted you feel may not be obtainable anymore, or you don't want to go in that direction anymore, it's okay. It's okay to look at that. It's okay to mourn that. And it's also okay to live in the current present and in the
Mhm.
moment, to live boldly and to continue to move forward because life is truly a gift.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. So, your coaching, you are a certified life coach. I want to talk all about that. Let's talk about how you got started, what led you to do this, the areas, and also, podcast family, we're going to talk about a special workshop that Shar has
Yes.
as well. So please.
Yes. Like I said in the beginning, I was always that friend everyone came to for advice, and I was always solving people's problems. And then I think I saw something like a video or something that said, "Hey, you've been solving people's problems all this time for years. Why don't you get paid for it?" And trust me, I do not do it for the money at all. I do it because I love helping people. I coach people for free. I never want money to be a barrier between them and getting help because I really do it to lift people up and help them reach their goals. With that said, I spent a few years researching different coaching programs because I wanted to make sure the program I chose was legitimate, legitimate, affordable, convenient. So I finally found one and I took this 6 month course and it was an investment, but I got so much out of it. And I gained a tribe of other coaches who will be friends for life. So that was in May of, that was just last year. And I've been coaching ever since, officially.
That is awesome. So, what are the areas that you coach in, provide coaching in?
Yeah. So caregiving, career coaching, dating, relationships, family, and just life in general. Education. I love helping young people who are on that cusp between high school and college or college and graduate school. I really enjoy working with those folks because I didn't have really anyone to guide me when I was in college, and it would have been helpful.
I agree with you there. I am first
Oh, I didn't
generation
know
in my
that.
family. Yeah, to
That's
graduate
awesome.
college, to enter the corporate space, everything always first. My maternal grandmother's side, first one, period, since my grandmother. And to your point, again, I resonate with that, and I'm sure many of the listeners, the podcast family, can resonate with that. When you're the first one, you don't necessarily have that person that can guide you through and direct you on the choices you need to make, what steps to take. You don't have that.
Right.
And a lot of times you find yourself learning through trial and error.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
so it's nice, podcast family. It is great to be able to have a resource such as Shar as a life coach, because the areas that she mentioned, not only does she has experience in terms of her coaching certification, because she is certified, honey, in addition to it, she has lived these experiences.
Yep.
So she knows what it is to have to make decisions, to be
Yes.
confronted with a bunch of different options at the same time. She knows what
Mhm.
it is to be a caregiver, to wear many hats while she has a personal life, while she's also a career woman. She knows what it is to try to make the best decision she can when they're presented in front of her in terms of career and classes and degrees. So, this is the type of coach, life coach, that you want to go with, because not only is she providing the service, honey, she's lived it. That's the difference. Nothing's better than that. Nothing's better than that. I remember when I lost a best friend of mine, a
Mm.
very best friend, from the age of 5 to a few days after my 16th birthday. Her
Oh,
name was
wow.
Devette Edwards, and we did everything together. Her name was Devette, and she passed of spinal meningitis. No one knew she had it. I remember going to therapy once. It was me and her sister, who I'm also still close to. Shout out Novia. Hey, girl. I just remember the therapist in our high school. I was just like, are you speaking to me from experience, or are you speaking to me based upon what you learned out of a book? That's what I wanted to know at the age
Mhm.
of 16. Because I really felt that at that time, dealing with what I was going through, the great loss, no one would be able to understand unless they experienced it. Why I say again, podcast family, it's always great when you're able to connect and have resources with people who have lived the
Mhm.
journey that you are
Absolutely.
currently on.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, with that said, I know that you have a special workshop, and this
Yes.
workshop is called Labor of Love, a Caregivers Workshop.
Mhm.
Please tell the podcast family about this.
Yes. I'm so excited about it. I wanted to create a safe space to support caregivers and a space where they can gain clarity, compassion, and just some practical tools to help them get through the caregiver journey. So, this is about letting the caregivers know that they're not alone, that burnout is real. Some of the challenges they'll face, like burnout, fatigue, guilt, that's a big one, right? And then just giving yourself permission to rest and take care of yourself. So, we really, in the workshop, I really emphasize self care and self compassion. And a lot of times when you're a caregiver, you have such limited time and you say to yourself, when am I going to have time for self care? I'm always attending to someone or something, right? So you have to make time for that because you can't pour from an empty cup. So we definitely work on different methods of getting that self care in. And it's really about getting it in smaller chunks versus trying to do something big, go away on a vacation. Maybe you can go to the spa for a couple hours and get a massage or a facial, take a walk, be one with nature, or just be with friends that make you laugh. So that's a lot of what we work on. There's a work companion workbook, there are worksheets, and lots of tools that for caregivers to use in their daily lives.
Okay, and how long is the program? What's the duration?
It can go anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes, and we do it virtually. And I'm looking for dates right now for the first one so that we can get it rolling for 2026.
Okay, awesome. So, for the podcast family that's interested, that means that right now there's a sign up, correct?
They can visit my website at www.passionflowercoaching.com and submit an interest form, and I will get the email that they're interested, and I'll reach out.
Okay, awesome. So, again, podcast family, that is www.passionflowercoaching.com. And once you go onto the site, there will be a form in which you're able to fill out expressing your interest in the Labor of Love, a caregiver's workshop that our certified coach, certified life coach, Charlayne Van, will be giving. For anyone that's new that's listening, all of this information will be listed in the description of this podcast episode. So, therefore, depending upon how you're accessing it, whether it's on YouTube or one of the many streaming platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, etc., you'll be able to click on the link or copy the link and put it into your browser. Yes. And a little bit more about the workshop. Is this a group workshop or will you
Yes,
be doing this individually?
both. As if someone's interested in doing it individually, we can do it that way. Or if they don't mind being part of a group, I can set up the group workshop.
I love that. I love it. And the reason why I love that is because everyone's different.
Right.
Maybe some people who want to be in a group, and there may be some people who prefer to work with you privately on this workshop. So
Hmm.
to know that you have two options, that is great.
Yeah.
That's great. So again, podcast family, you want to go to www.passionflowercoaching.com and look for the form and fill out the form. And Charlayne Van, who is our certified life coach, will be in contact with you pertaining to next steps.
Yes. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Char, for coming on
You.
again and just being a guest and sharing your story, being vulnerable, and then holding a space for me as I was vulnerable during this conversation that we had. I sincerely appreciate it. I sincerely appreciate you. I
It's been
sincerely
wonderful.
appreciate your presence. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you. It's been an honor and a blessing to be here
Yeah,
with you.
I received that. All right, podcast family. Until next time.